If you're getting ghosted by investors hearing, well, think about it. It's not the market, it's how you're positioning the deal. After 20 years of advising operators that have done over $1 billion in their own deals, I've seen $1 million opportunities slip away because of avoidable mistakes. And while you're still obsessing over your IRRs or your pitch decks, investors have already written you off. So in this video, I'm breaking down the 4 fastest deal killers and showing exactly how to fix them before your next raise. Deal killer number 1, you're leading with the deal instead of your unfair advantage. Look, most operators open with their deal, thinking that that's what's going to grab people's attention. They say things like, we're paying 15% returns, and hoping it sounds irresistible. But here's what happens next. The investor immediately thinks, well, the other guy's paying 17%. Congratulations, you've just commoditized yourself. You're no longer a professional operator, you're a line on a spreadsheet. The reality is your deal doesn't make you investable. You make the deal investable. Your unfair advantage is what sets you apart. Your background, your execution record, your unique sourcing, your operating systems. It's what turns an investor's curiosity into trust. Let me give you an example. A few years ago, I worked with an operator who had a solid multifamily project. Good numbers, clean deal, but he kept getting the same response. Looks good, but we're going to pass. Once he restructured his pitch to focus on his 10-year operating history, zero investor losses, strong property management infrastructure, and proprietary deal flow, the same investors who ignored him were suddenly calling him back asking for allocation. Nothing about the deal changed. What did change was people's perception of him. See, when you lead with your unfair advantage, the deal becomes a byproduct of your credibility, not a desperate offer for attention. And once you shift from selling the deal to showcasing your advantage, something powerful happens. Investors stop comparing you and start qualifying themselves. Deal killer number 2, position yourself as a salesperson, not a steward of capital. Too many operators sounds like a car salesman talking about features and benefits and timelines. It's if you're pitching an SUV or something. Investors don't want to be sold. They want to find someone they can trust who can multiply their capital while protecting it. So they're not buying a product. They're literally buying into a relationship. So when you say, I need to raise $2 million, you instantly sound like someone begging for capital. That kills authority automatically and signals scarcity. So you need to flip that dynamic. You're not there to convince somebody to invest. You're there to evaluate whether they're a good fit for your capital group, period. When you position yourself as a steward of capital, someone who protects and grows capital with discipline, you attract a completely different class of investor. Here's what that looks like in practice. One of my clients used to open investor calls by talking about his new project in, let's just say, Texas. And after some time together, he would start every call by saying, before we discuss the deal, I want to make sure this kind of opportunity fits your goals. For context, our focus is long-term wealth preservation with moderate growth, not speculative returns. And instantly, when he said that, he sounded like somebody protecting investors, not chasing them. On average, he raises his round in half the time everyone else does. And that actually leads straight into the next killer, try to convince investors instead of qualifying them. So when an investor gives you an objection, most operators double down. They pitch harder, add more data, start talking faster, thinking that they can logic their way into trust. But the truth is, the harder you chase, the faster sophisticated money runs. The best quote I ever heard from a super high net worth individual business owner is, if you chase money, it will run from you. So let's say someone says, I need monthly cash flow, and your deal pays quarterly. Instead of trying to convince them that it's still great, just tell them, hey, look, you know what? This probably isn't going to be a fit for us. And they're going to say, why? And you're going to say, well, you need monthly cash flow, and at best, this deal is going to pay out quarterly. And then one of two things will happen. Either A, they're going to say, well, actually, I'm open to ABC, or B, they're going to say, you know, you're right. I appreciate you being upfront with me. And see, that simple shift communicates abundance and authority because you're not needy and you believe that your needs are going to get filled regardless. And that's the foundation of what I call the easy method. E stands for exclusivity. So not everybody gets access to your deals. A is for abundance. So you have multiple opportunities in your pipeline with lots of investors that want to potentially work with you. S is scarcity. So in other words, allocations are limited and time sensitive. And Y is your allocation. So if people are interested, each investor has to earn their spot and actually take an allocation in the property, take an allocation to the deal. So here's a story that drives this home. I remember sitting down with an investor once, big guy, serious face, arms crossed, like I just backed into his car in the parking lot. And from the second we sat down, his body language screamed, I don't want to be here. So within about a minute, I closed my notebook, stood up, and reached out to shake his hand. And he kind of looks at me confused and says, what are you doing? I said, you're looking at me like you're being held against your will here. So, frankly, I've got other things to do, and I'm sure you could too. And he just immediately softened up and just his hands came down. He goes, no, I'm interested, he said. So I asked, okay, then why are you looking at me like I keyed your car in the parking lot? That literally opened the floodgates. Turns out he'd been burned before, invested in a bad deal, lost a lot of money, caused him a lot of grief. And for me, by calling out that energy in the room and having enough self-respect for myself to not just chase him around, I actually ended up earning his trust and he became a long-term client. See, that's the difference between convincing and qualifying. Confidence attracts, desperation repels. But even if you master this mindset, it won't matter if you only show up when you're thirsty for capital. Which brings us to the fourth deal killer. You don't have a system for building trust before you actually need it. I call it digging your well before you're thirsty. See, most operators meet investors for the first time after they have a deal to fund. And in my opinion, that's completely backwards. See, trust doesn't form in a single pitch meeting. It's built over time through consistent value, conversations, and proof of execution. So if your first investor touchpoint happens when you need the capital, you're already late. You need to start building your investor pipeline 6, maybe even 12 months before your next raise. And this is literally the concept of digging your well before you're thirsty. So how do you do that 6 months or 12 months before you have a deal? Simple. You nurture the relationships by sharing insights, showing your track record, and staying top of mind. So when the right deal does come along, the funding is almost automatic. Many of my clients, as a starting point, build a simple monthly update. No pitch, no deals, just insights and project updates. And 6 months later, when that next deal opens up, they're able to fill 50 to 80% plus of that raise within the first couple of days. See, that's the power of consistent trust building. And that's exactly why your unfair advantage is so important. And in the context of the core 4 system, we actually start packaging you and your unfair advantage before you ever need to raise capital. It's literally the foundation of investor attraction. So if you fix these 4 deal killers, lead with your unfair advantage, position yourself as a steward of capital, qualify instead of convince, and build trust before you need it, you'll notice something incredible. Capital will start to find you. You'll stop pitching and start partnering. You'll stop chasing and start choosing. And literally, this is how the top 1% raise capital. So if you got value from this video, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with someone in your network who needs to hear this. It helps the channel reach more serious operators who are ready to elevate their game.